What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are doing another episode of Collector's Thoughts. As always, I'm your host, Respawn Granted, co-host RB. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. How was your week since our last conversation?
Uh, Let me see. Adventurous. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. I had a very strange week too. My 49ers won, which was great, but I heard bad news, which was my favorite Power Ranger, the Green Ranger, ended up
Oh,
passing away. Apparently,
yeah. Not only that, but didn't the one that played the animated the actor that played the voice in the animated series Batman, he also died too. I forgot his name. Kevin
Kevin,
Conroy or whatever.
yeah, Kevin Conroy. Yeah, he died. I think it was last week he died. So yeah, it's been kind of up and down with the feelings. You know what I mean? I was privileged enough to meet Jason David Frank twice, and he seemed like a really cool dude, but obviously he had inner demons going on. So really shame. You know what a shame. He seemed like a great guy.
You know, before we get on today's topic, since you say that, it's one of those things where if you're and this is hard for me to say this because you know that I deal with those inner demons myself over the years.
Yeah,
And the only thing I can say is if you feel like something's off
yeah,
with somebody, I know people like I don't want to be too pushy, but if you feel like something's off, then odds are there probably is.
yeah,
And sometimes people like myself and like him, obviously, just we're too busy trying to take the focus off ourselves and put it on everybody else. And sometimes they want to ask for help, but we just don't. So just
yeah,
keep an eye on your friends, and if you feel like something's off, maybe there is.
yeah. It's a real shame. It's a real crisis going on in the world right now. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they figure out a way to fix that. But anyway, let's get on to happier topic, which
Yeah.
is, or it might be happier depending on how you feel about McFarlane. But we're going to be talking about McFarlane. How has he been doing as a company up until this point, and what we predict for him moving forward? So, it was about 3 years ago, right? He took on the DC Multiverse line,
It's
and
going to be 2 years this January. Yeah.
this January, and he has been met with a lot of ups and downs. So right from the get go, I mean, you know this probably better than anybody. Right from the beginning, he was already hit with a huge controversy. You want to touch on that with the
I mean, if that's what you want to call like the scale of a figure, if you want to call that controversy, which is what some people were saying,
yeah,
I guess. Which turns out, like I was trying to tell people back then, I don't think that's a controversial decision. It's a scale of a figure. I think
right,
that's a stretch. I think it's people, you guys are just hating on the dude because you already don't like him. And it might not have even been his decision, which turns out it wasn't. So, yeah. So right out of the gate, like people were just hating even before they even knew what he was going to do. So, yeah, no question.
yeah. Before he even put any figures out on the shelf.
Yep.
It was already met with mixed emotions. Now,
Yep.
me and you personally talked about this a while back when he did get the license, and we were optimistic. We were very excited to see what he was going to be able to do. So now that we as the collecting community and McFarlane himself has about 3 years under his belt, what would you say? Like how has he been doing up until this point, in your opinion?
I think the first year he started off that first wave showed promise, but there was a lot of things that he could improve upon, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think this second year, half the year was strong, half the year was filled with a lot of QC, a lot of rushing, a lot of just bad things that happened. So it was 50-50 year in the second year, but he still had the number one selling line in US and Canadian markets, which a lot of us know that by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year, getting towards the tail end of his third year, is probably his most complete year. Not too many problems with his figures, not a lot of people complaining. He's been pretty consistent. And I'm going to say this over this January makes 3 years. I have never seen a company that gets a license that runs with it out of the gates and shows so much improvement in such a short period of time like
Right.
he has. Love him or hate him, and I'm not even touching on the price point yet. I'm just talking about the improvement of his figures of the multiverse line. If you're saying that he sucks, you're just a straight up hater because And that's not an opinion, that's a fact. If you look at what he started off with in his first year, and then you look at the improvements, the sculpted ankle joints that you can't even tell that it, come on, man. Like, he's improved. And now I'm gonna touch on the friggin' price point. He's still at $20. So much for the inflation problem. Look, bang for the buck. We used to say this with NECA, but right now, he's the cheapest out there. And what you're getting in terms of sculpt, how much his figures have improved in just 3 years. I think that's hard to beat, man. I think it's hard to beat. If you hate him, you hate him. I'm not going to say that you have to like somebody when you know. That's fine. You're entitled to that. But to say that his line is garbage, well, he had the number one seller line in two biggest markets, and he might have more than two markets this year. So
interesting. Now, now I want to touch. Yes, because I want to touch on that, because it's funny that you went the way you went, because that's pretty much how I was going to set it up. The price point. He hasn't really done any. It stayed where it was. He said he was going to do it, and he managed to do it with everybody else around him getting more expensive. He stayed where he is. The other thing is that I think part of the reason why this guy or his company, whatever, has been so successful is because he does a great job appealing to the collector with how a figure looks, whether you keep it in the package or out. The price point, and even the fact that even like younger people, like children and stuff like that, will look at his figures and be drawn to it. He does a very good balancing act between the hardcore collector who's willing to get something cheaper but good bang for their buck, and for the parent that's walking through the toy aisle and their little kid wants a Batman figure. I feel like actually, technically, all three people are happy with that. The collector's happy for what he's getting for $20. The parent is happy because they're only spending $20, and then the child's thrilled because they're getting a cool looking, whatever, Batman, Superman, whatever it is, for $20. And kids don't care about money, but the parent does, so they're saving money on that aspect, especially compared to everything else. Because we had our last topic was Hasbro, and we talked about how that price keeps growing and growing. So if you're a parent, you're on a tight budget, but you want to kind of treat your kid with a toy every once in a while, McFarlane definitely makes it easier to be able to do that. And let's also talk about the fact that he's also brought back his Spawn line, which seems to be doing pretty well.
People wanted it, and he's giving it to them. So here's the thing: like, he's known to be, so that way people don't think that we're being biased, which I will admit, he's known to be a little bit stubborn. And that's people that are close to him, that work with him today, right, say that he can be stubborn. So that he's kind of earned that reputation, and he is. But it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because it's a bad thing if you're working for him.
Right.
It's a good thing because he said he was going to try to keep his prices at affordable, give people the most bang for his buck, and he's being stubborn. And it shows because he's the only one that hasn't raised his prices. Eventually, I think if Hasbro raises their prices again, eventually he's going to have to. I mean, at some point, he's going to be like, hey, dude, now I'm just getting pretty much manhandled by these people. Their figures, especially when it comes to Hasbro, their figures are not only not better, mine are arguably better than theirs, and I'm about $10 less than them right now. If they raise their prices, I almost think he has to. But I think he's done a great job, but he is known to being a little bit stubborn. But I agree with what you said. I mean, he's got everybody covered, right? I mean, whether it's collector, whether it's kids, look at the superpower line.
I was just gonna say that. Yep.
Like, come on, man! Like, this guy is just killing on all fronts. And again, for those of you who are gonna, if we want to hear from you guys again in the comment section, but if you're gonna sit here and bitch about, those Robins that came with the Batman, the Batman Who Laughs, how he did 3 figures with 3 different head sculpts. Somewhat valid, somewhat not, because I know people who buy NECA figures twice to display them with 2 different heads that they come with. Right. So that's kind of the same thing. So again, the hate is real. Just keep on hating, because I don't know. I think we're going to touch on this in a few minutes, but he's got the DC Direct line. Mm-hmm. He's in charge of that. And now he's getting the comics from DC Comics. I don't think he's going to lose. I'm going to say this. Warner Brothers is known for doing some crazy ass shit. So nothing's etched in stone until it's actually a done deal. But I don't think that even they would give him the comics, their in-house brand, and pull the multiverse license from him. I don't see that happening, but it is Warner Brothers.
Right. So, yeah. So before we move on to our predictions about that, the other thing I wanted to say too was that he did end up getting those two lines that you just mentioned. So he started off with a 3-year contract for only the multiverse line. And then towards the tail end of his contract, we're hearing that he picked up these other two licenses, deals, whatever you want to call them. And they're pretty big deals, you know? Now, the thing is, before we get too ahead of ourselves, we are not saying that he was, you know, it's perfect. No company is. There's always issues everywhere. And you actually touched on it too. But the one thing we can say is that it seems like McFarlane is listening and adjusting accordingly. Because you had mentioned, what was it, the ankles, right? In wave 1 or year 1?
Yeah, even beyond that, even it went like the first year, he kept using those ugly ball joints on the wrists and the ankles. And then he started using those sculpted ankle joints on his Spawn figures. Mm-hmm. And people were like, oh, we'd love to see this in the multiverse line, but we doubt we'll ever see it. And he said, no, it's coming.
Yeah.
And people still didn't believe it. And it's on the multiverse line. So he does listen. This guy does, he is stubborn, but he does listen to feedback. I mean, and again, these things don't get implemented overnight. For people who want things to happen overnight, like they don't happen overnight. And, you know, Hasbro fans tend to like, oh, it doesn't happen overnight. But then when it's McFarlane, it's got to happen overnight. So no, but he does listen to feedback, unlike Hasbro. I mean, if they were paying attention, I mean, they could have made some adjustments by now. But I just don't think they care. But that was last week's segment. We're not talking about Hasbro anymore. No, at least not today.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, one thing that you didn't bring up since you brought up Hasbro anyway, you did say that some of their figures will show some improvement in some things, but then they go back to old molds again. We can safely say that McFarlane seems to not be doing that. He changed the ankles and the wrists, and it seems like he's not going back. It seems like he continues to move forward.
Occasionally, you'll get a figure that still has the old ball joints, but he tends to kind of like really get him up into that leg where they open it up and they kind of hide it better. Mm-hmm. But you still get that from time to time. Look, all these companies do that, man. They're all going to reuse molds when they can and if they can. Not saying he doesn't reuse molds, but I'm saying in terms of improvement, listening to the fans, listening to the feedback, and giving them what they're asking for, I haven't seen anybody adjust as quickly as he has in 3 years. Nobody. Not Mattel, not Mafex, which is an import company, and sure as hell not freaking Hasbro. Yeah. No.
And the other thing too is he also makes these big figures that are like, you know, anywhere from $40 to $50. Now those, for the most part, anyway, there has been some that I can't say the same, but for the most part, a lot of them you get good weight with them. They're like 10-inch figures, aren't they? They're pretty big.
I mean, there's no specific scale for the mega figs. They're all kind of all over the place.
Right. Yeah.
If there's another knock that we could talk about McFarlane is like some of his Build-A-Figures, like the Solomon Grundy based on the Arkham City wave that just came out, which I have. That Solomon Grundy figure is massively undersized. That figure should have definitely been bigger.
Yeah.
But we saw that with the Build-A-Figure for the Bane. But then he released the Megafig Bane. And I think we all know the rest is history. That Megafig Bane is badass. And that's probably what the Build-A-Figure Bane should have been. He should have been big like that. But look, you know, he does tend to correct it. You know, people said they wanted a bigger Bane, a classic Bane. He gave it to him. So
yeah. Now the other thing too is with him up until this point, it's a double-edged sword with this next topic, which is how often he's releasing characters and the different characters. Now, the thing is, on the positive side of it, me personally, I'm seeing a lot of different characters, not just Batman's, but different versions of Batman, Superman, all these other villains and stuff that I never even seen, or at least I haven't seen in a long time. But on the flip side of that, like you mentioned with the Build-A-Figure, for someone who collects all the figures to build Bane, Then a little later on, he comes out with Bane by himself. So it's like there's some frustration there, but also some excitement. Now, you personally being a collector with McFarlane, do you find yourself more frustrated with the releases and how many, or the different versions of the same guys, or do you find yourself more excited for it?
I think it's gotten to the point where he's cranking it out, and I think we just have to, as collectors, we have to pick and choose which ones we really want.
Right.
The one thing I will say is, what frustrates me is when he does a Build-A-Figure, and then he releases it as a standalone. Now, that Build-A-Figure Bane was not the same as that Mega Fig. They're not the same figure. It's not.
Okay.
What I'm saying is though, but he did it with the King Shark, right? So he did the
Yes.
Build-A-Figure, and then he released it like this big set with all the figures with King Shark already built. It's like that. That's a little bit annoying. If there's one thing with him that when he gets pummeled on social media that I don't stick up for him at all is when he does crap like that. I don't like that. If you want to do that figure like 8 months or a year after you did the Build-A-Figure, or a year and a half, perfectly legit, because even Hasbro's done that. But man, like 3 to 4 months after you just did the Build-A-Figure, when people are hunting these figures down to build it, and then you release it as a standalone, that's fucked up.
Yep.
Pardon my French, but I had to say it that way.
Yeah.
That shit I don't like.
Yeah. And on the other side of that too, like a small gripe that I kind of have with him too is I remember when he released the Mortal Kombat Spawn, and there was 3 spawns, and the only difference was really the weapon it came with. I thought that was kind of messed up too. I'm like, really? So one comes with an axe, one comes with a mace, and one comes with a sword, I think it was, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be variants, at least paint them differently, which he ended up doing.
Right.
But the first 3, you're right.
Yeah.
It was just a different weapon. I'm like, I remember we talked about that. I'm like, that's freaking lazy.
It is.
That's just flat out lazy. So yeah, he's had some hiccups here and there, but more often than not, and he is hit or miss here and there. But what company is it?
Right.
Even the imports for their price points sometimes are hit or miss. So I mean, for a $20 figure, but more often than not, man, especially this year, he's killing it more often than not.
Yeah, because once again, that Spawn that I'm talking about, that was in the beginning. I think that was year 1.5, something like that. So yeah, it's definitely been different. He's definitely done more of paint differences and stuff like that. Definitely more worth for you to collect a bunch of different versions of the same character because he's changing the colors and stuff. Now, the other thing too is one guy that pops into my head in particular is the Gunslinger Spawn. Released them 3 separate times. Once in the I think it was first wave, then second wave again. All he did was change up a weapon or a couple weapons, and then he did a GameStop exclusive with a horse. Now, I don't have a huge gripe with that because of the fact that it is different enough, but and it gives people a chance to get one. Like, you have no reason why you can't get a Gunslinger Spawn. He's released it 3 times. Pretty much in the long run. But the thing is, though, I could see why people would be frustrated where let's say you got the first Gunslinger Spawn. Then the second one comes on, you're like, well, it's the same thing. It's just a couple of different weapons. Then the one with the horse, you're like, well, what the hell? Which one am I supposed to grab here? You know what I mean? So,
I mean, at that point, it's just you have to be able to control yourself. If you know that it's just if you got the first one, you don't need the last 2. If you missed out on the first one and the second one, then get the one on the horse.
Yeah.
That's up to the consumer. People just want to bitch about something. But I will say this. If you don't like the scalping issue, then you should love McFarlane. You shouldn't hate him. Because the reason why he does that, and this is my devil's advocate kind of putting it out there, like my conspiracy thing. Like, I love doing these conspiracy things. I think he does that to pretty much fuck with the scalpers because he knows, he's seen what they've done with his figures in the beginning when he first got the license, where people were just gobbling them up and selling them for more than what he was doing. And he's definitely seen what they've done, the scalpers have done with NECA and Hasbro. And he's sitting there going, yeah, you're not going to do that with me because I know people are going to be pissed. But I'm going to make sure they're going to get their hands on these figures for my cost, not your ridiculous 4 to 5 times MSRP.
Right.
So that's another way that you can look at these things. So if you want to be pissed because he's releasing it, I personally think he's doing it because of that. Because one of the ways to combat scalpers is by re-releasing stuff, which real quick, and you're nodding your head, but real quick, and I want to give a quick nod, because I don't know if you saw this. I know it's a little off topic, but real quick.
Okay, good.
Kudos to NECA. Okay? They're starting to listen. Not as quickly as McFarlane, but they're starting to listen. Now you're getting the NECA quarter scale Heath Ledger Joker, which is like $350, $400.
Yes, I saw that.
You're getting the Adam West Batman,
Mm-hmm.
re-released in quarter scale, and you're getting the Burt Ward Robin that goes with him. Way to go, NECA.
Mm-hmm.
Now just do that with the Turtles, the first Toon Turtles,
Yep.
and you're going to have a bunch of happy people, because this guy right here has wanted that quarter scale Heath Ledger Joker, but I'm not paying $400 for him.
Mm-hmm.
At 130, yeah, I'll pay that.
Yep, I already pre-ordered. I went on Big Bad yesterday, saw that. I couldn't believe it. My eyes popped out of their sockets, dude. I was so excited to see that. And I saw like the Freddy one. Both Freddys are coming back. I'm like, dude, the
Jungle Hunter Predator.
Yes.
Jungle Hunter Predator.
Yeah.
Look, this is what, if you want to combat scalping, for those of you who already have the figures, don't bitch, because not everybody got the Heath Ledger quarter scale Joker.
Right.
Not everybody got the Gunslinger Spawn from McFarlane. So when these companies are doing this, we all keep bitching about scalping. This is the way the companies combat it and discourage them from doing it, is re-releasing these figures so that way they sit on the shit that they have stocked in their house with that they're selling to you for 4 times the price, MSRP.
Right.
So I just think McFarlane is kind of led the way with that. Like, a lot of people have bitched, oh, another repaint or another Gunslinger Spawn. Well, if for the people that missed out, you have 2 other chances to get him.
Right.
Just packaged differently.
Yep.
Okay. Look, and that's just the way I see it. And, you know, and NECA's finally starting to see what McFarlane is doing, and you're starting to see them follow through with it. So, say what you want about McFarlane, man. He's setting the tone, and these other companies are seeing it, and they're following that blueprint.
Yep. And that's honestly why it doesn't bother me too much, because like you said, when they release it, if you already have one, just don't get the other ones. He's trying to appeal to not only collectors, but also kids and people that just casually walk by and buy these things. So, and honestly, for collectors like me and you, we don't resell our stuff, really. It's very rare. We tend to buy to keep. So the people I've noticed, I'm not trying to put a blanket statement over everybody, but for the most part, the people that seem to complain the most, whether it's video games or action figures or statues, are the people that plan on selling them. And it's like, well, you're complaining because you bought something for $100 and you want to sell it for $5. Well, you know something? Too bad. I want to buy it for $100 the way the company intended it. So anyway, before I go on a tangent that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, up until this point, good. I was just gonna say, up until this point, McFarlane, if you were to give McFarlane a school grade, right? What would be what would be an accurate grade of his first 3 years? Like, me personally, I already got a letter in my head, but I don't want to say it to influence you. So, okay, so go ahead. You tell me what you would rate his first 3 years.
B+.
That's exactly what I was going to say, dude. B+, exactly. Yep. So
B+. I think his first year was a little shaky, but it was his first year. Mm-hmm. His second year, the first half was pretty strong. Finished it off a little bit weak. And then this year, he's been killing it. And that B+ is because of this year mainly, to be honest with you. Again, his first year, you know, you got some really good figures that first year compared to what we were used to from Mattel. Everybody was like, oh, shit. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, but there were some people bitching and complaining. There's some people bitching and complaining now. But overall, man, B+, man. And I think he's going to keep the license. And I don't think it's going to be just another 3-year deal. I'd be shocked if it wasn't longer than that.
Well, see, the thing is, for me personally, I agree with you, but for me personally, the B+ is I like what I'm seeing as far as, like, you got the superpowers figures. I can't wait to see where he's going with that. Then you got obviously the multiverse line. Now you're hearing that he's got the direct, the DC Direct. He's part of that now too, the in-house stuff, and like you said, the comics. So it's like, okay, so this guy obviously has impressed enough. And like I said, just from what I'm seeing on the shelves, with the variety and the fact that it's actually there, is impressive to me.
Distribution.
So, yes.
distribution. We were talking about that
Yeah.
off air. Distribution. His distribution is really good. Number one. Number
Yep.
two,
Price.
you the price, and number
Yeah.
three, you gotta love his passion.
Yeah.
He's a kid like we are.
Yep.
Look, the fact that he's giving us these page punches, whether it's the 3-inch figures or the
Yeah.
7-inch ones, and he's giving us physical comics. He's trying to get people back into reading physical freaking books. Not everything has to be digital in today's world. You know what? I think back in the day when people were actually reading books and there was less social media, I think the world was a better place. And I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to say. So the fact that he's trying to bring back physical comics, he's got my respect, and I love what he's doing with that. And real quick on the scalpers thing, for those of you who say that people do it because they need to feed their families, go bang your ass. When you're sitting on 50 PS5s, I think that could have paid the bills and put some food on the table. Don't give me that crap. There's work everywhere if you want to go work and do some freaking physical labor.
Yeah. I remember that story about the PS5s too.
Yeah, dude. I'm just trying to feed my family. Then why the hell do you have 30 PS5s? Dude, at $500 a piece? No, man. Don't give me that crap.
So I have nothing else to add with what he's been up to up until this point. I don't know if you want to add anything. All right, cool. So now we're going to jump to another fun part, the part that I'm really looking forward to, which is the predictions. So we discussed, he already picks up, he starts off with 1, he's now at 3. He's got the multiverse line, the comics, and the DC in-house, the direct. Now, what do you see for McFarlane coming in the next 5 years? What do you see?
Oof.
It's tough, right? I know.
With him, because he's so, he comes out of left field with, page punches. Who the hell saw that coming?
Right.
The superpower line. Who the hell saw that coming? Nobody saw that coming. Predictions, I will say, I would be shocked if he doesn't get, at least a 5 or a 10-year deal with the multiverse line where he keeps it.
Yep.
And I think, first of all, I think he's going to kill it with the comics. They couldn't have found a better guy to run their comics, which is in the toilet, and that's McFarlane. That's where he started. So I think he's going to continue to run DC Direct, their in-house brand, and I would like to hopefully see not only the figures that didn't see the light of day that were already produced. I hope he continues to make new ones, and I think we might see that. And I think the comics, you already seen it with the page punchers. I think he's going to try to push that, get people back into reading physical comics. I think he will keep the multiverse license. That's my prediction. What say you?
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna keep that line too, just because of how well he's been doing with it. I'd be shocked if they took that away, unless of course they maybe try to do something else with him, and maybe it's just too much. But other than that, I don't see them. I don't see that happening. He's just so diverse. Like you said, the page punchers came out of nowhere, but what a great idea. The superpowers came out of nowhere, but great idea.
Fantastic line.
Yeah. So it's
nostalgic, dude. Love it.
Right. So it's I could see him continuing with that. He's made some statue stuff, which I actually have one of them, and he's got a couple other ones. So he showed that he could do that stuff. I mean, this guy, dude, who knows? I mean,
dude, look at the Avatar stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, whatever he puts his hand on, man, say what you want about him, whether you love him or not. He gives it his all, and he gives you it at a fair price, cheaper than everybody else.
Right. So it's I want to see what he's going to do with the comics. That's going to be interesting to see where he's going to go with that. I'd like to see where the figures are going to continue to go, because I mean, he's released so many different versions of these characters. It almost feels like you're going to start running out, but there's a lot. There's many years to go through, many different characters. I mean, he's doing the direct stuff, which is a little more pricey, and some of that stuff is also the 6-inch figures, right?
Well, the animated is the other one's a 7-inch. The essential line is 7-inch figures, so we'll see if that continues. Right. I think we'll see the animated, because there's a huge outcry to bring that line back from DC Direct. Yep. The Essentials line is debatable. I think that one might fizzle out.
Okay. So I mean, I would almost like to see, because they're the DC's movie line is so messed up and all over the place. It'd be interesting to see if he even dips into that a little bit over the next, 5 years.
I already saw some promo images of the Nolan trilogy figures. He's going to be making them.
There you go. So yeah. So I mean, I see good things for this guy as long as there isn't some, let's be honest, as long as no one higher up in WB tries to influence too much,
right?
And tries to like make him go ways he's not used to going. But yeah, I mean, he's done pretty good so far, really good so far. I mean, I agree with you with the price increase. I feel like that's inevitable. It's going to eventually come. I mean, I would just like to see some. I mean, I can't even say variety, to be honest with you, because his figures, he's now starting to do a lot more flashes and Superman and Wonder Woman and all that. So plenty of variety.
Manhunter. We're starting to get more characters, and based on what I'm hearing, there's more coming that's outside of the Batman family. So stay tuned for that.
What about the Batman TV show? What do you think of that one? The 66 ones that he's been doing.
I think they're all right. I think a lot of people, including yourself, have said that they're not necessarily worth it. But when you look at what Super 7 is charging for their reaction figures, and they're far smaller.
Yeah.
Again, I hear what you're saying in your reviews that you did, which you did a great job on. And I agree. Accessories could be a little bit more. Could have at least have a peg stand with them, especially since they're molded feet. There's no articulation there, but I think overall it's a solid line. I think it's sculpted and paint apps are better than Mattel's. Mattel's had more articulation, but the proportions were off. I think it's a solid line. When you look at the Superpowers line, that's only $10. Look, reaction figure 3 3/4 inch, $18. His 6-inch figures are $18. I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point, man. Like, he's killing everybody, dude. Yeah. Sorry, he just is.
And you know what, dude? Maybe he'll even do like a reaction line too, like a small. You never know.
I think that might be coming. 3 3/4 inch figures might be coming from McFarlane.
Yeah,
I think it might.
I mean, I could see it. It would definitely fit his mold. I mean, like I said, the guy is just opening up the library and just going. He's like a kid in a candy store. He's excited to just pump out the next one in a good way, though, obviously. And he just wants to make people happy, make money, obviously, and just get as many different versions out there as possible. And I think it's working for him so far. But we'll see what ends up happening as the years press on. Now they haven't officially extended his 3-year.
No, not yet. Okay. Not yet. But everything points in that direction. But we will see.
We will see. Yeah, because maybe who knows? Who knows what they'll do with that? But yeah, so we both think he's going to keep it. We both think he's going to exceed in the other two lines as well, and he's going to continue branching out with some different figures and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and a price increase too, of course.
I mean, he might, but I think he's holding off, and I think I'm applauding him now to hold off as long because everybody else has been raising their prices, and he's still there at his original price. So I applaud him for that.
Now, is there any line, real quick before we go, any line or license that you would like for him to get into that's not DC?
No. I mean, not that I can think off the top of my head.
I'd like to see Marvel.
I was just about to say that if Hasbro, which I said, if you haven't watched last week's episode, go check it out.
Yep.
I think they might be on the verge of losing that license, which is why they just don't give a shit. But I think if McFarlane takes on Marvel, that would probably mean he's losing DC because I don't think he's big enough to take on both.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I agree, but I would love it because he did also work on the Spider-Man comics too, and he's the one that designed the big Spider-Man eyes. It'd be awesome to see that, dude.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
never know.
Yeah,
never know.
It's true.
Just keep this in mind. Spin Master, we've seen what they do with the League of Legends, so if they get Marvel, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing either. So
nope, that's a nice little company too. Spin Master's been quiet but surprising. But that's it for me. That's all I got. Do you got anything else that you'd like to add on the topic?
McFarlane, give us some 3 3/4 inch figures in DC form because there is a market for that. Hasbro's figured that out. Super 7's figured that out. Those page punches, the 3-inch, all you need to do is make them 3/4 inch bigger. Yeah. And you would have been right there. Right. So make that adjustment. There's a market for that.
And it comes with a comic book, so it's even better.
Make that adjustment.
But all right, guys, so that's it for us. This was a fun little topic. We talked about Hasbro last week. We talked about McFarlane this week. If there's anything you guys want us to talk about in particular, let us know down below. Please like, comment, subscribe. Stay safe out there, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Later, guys.
Peace. Be good.